Well, as we've been hearing, the French premier has agreed to renegotiate President Emmanuel Macron's highly unpopular pension reform. Bayrou is now set to meet with social partners, that's trade unions and employment federations, which includes France's largest MEDEF, to do just that. Macron's plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64 unleashed months of mass protests from January to June of 2023 that damaged his leadership. Well, let's get you the latest on the fires in Los Angeles now. Tens of thousands of people ordered to flee their homes as wildfires tore through the city have been told that they are not allowed to come back for at least a week. That's due to fears over electrocution, landslides and exposure to toxic materials. Well, fires have burned for a 10th day. They're now going into the 11th day. Firefighters expressed some relief as a break in extreme winds that have been fanning the flames is now forecast. Well, as of Thursday, the two largest fires have killed at least 25 people and burned over 40,000 acres of land and destroyed thousands of homes. Well, let's get more on this and speak to Yves Figueiredo, who joins me in the studio. Good to have you. Thanks so much for joining us. You're a specialist from CNRS. Now, of course, this has been going on for, over a week now, and it's left people displaced, it's left homes damaged. Talk to us about how difficult the recovery will be after this.
Right, thank you. Well, you have two different areas that are affected, natural areas, obviously, and then urban areas. And the scenarios are completely different, whether you talk about the natural areas or the urban areas. Fire is a completely natural element of the ecosystem in those regions. So normally having a fire is not necessarily something which is damaging. It's actually useful to the environment. But those fires are so intense, so violent, so brutal that for the environment recovering is actually going to be quite problematic. They will need to plant new trees. They will need to eradicate invasive species, for example. Mudslides in the coming days are going to be an issue. Probably the next rains will be extremely, potentially dangerous. So that's everything dealing with the environment. As far as the urban part of the fires is concerned, rebuilding is going to be a major issue for several reasons. The first one is obviously how are they going to rebuild? If they build the same way in the same places, the same consequences will happen again. There's no discussion. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if. If you build houses in timber, in wood, in forested areas, they will burn. That's one thing. The other thing is the insurance question. Are those places insurable? Will the insurance companies, State Farm has already left California. How are people going to get insurance? And if they're not insured, how are they going to get mortgages from the banks? Those are all the issues that are going to be discussed. Those are early days, but we're moving towards a potential insurance crisis that may actually reach outside of California, outside of the United States, in Europe. The reassurance market is a global market.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of bureaucracy now after these fires once they stop burning. Let's talk about the rebuilding that's going to happen. Governor Gavin Newsom has already spoke about building an LA 2.0. He's talked about this Marshall Plan that they're going to start to organize. What do you imagine are going to be the key points in this new plan?
I'm not sure what the key points are going to be. What they perhaps should be would be to rethink the connection with the wildland areas outside of Los Angeles. The fires happened in an area which is known as the wildland-urban interface, meaning essentially where the city meets the forest. And this is a really tricky area. This is a really pleasant area. That's why a lot of people want to live there, and that's understandable. But in terms of risk, in terms of fire management, it raises a lot of challenges that have always existed, but they've become worse and a lot worse. And the question is whether it's actually sustainable. So before rebuilding, and the governor has already taken measures to waive environmental regulations to speed up the process and the red tape, et cetera. But before they rebuild, there should be a point where you stop a little bit and think about whether it's advisable to build in those places. I'm not sure it's going to happen, obviously. But the whole question is to evaluate the fire risk in that interface. It was high. the question is whether it is now just sustainable. That's
going to be the key question going into this. Let's talk about those that are going to be allowed to return to their homes. Obviously, we've heard that some residents won't be allowed to return for at least a week now. But even if they do return to their homes, to these places that have been badly affected, they are still going to have challenges. I mean, the water lines, gas lines are going to probably stay off for a couple of months now. Lay out for us some of the challenges that are facing the displaced.
Some of the challenges will be to access their homes. You might have seen on some of the pictures coming from Los Angeles, sometimes in some neighborhoods, and particularly in Altadena, you have houses that are still standing in a sea of destroyed houses. Living in such an environment is not even safe in terms of the materials that burn. You have plastics, you have all kinds of things that are not particularly healthy to breathe. That's one of the challenges. Another, and particularly for Pacific Palisades, another of the challenges, as I said earlier, is the mudslides. The first rains that are going to come and drench those soils that have been severely damaged by the fires, those rains are going to be extremely, I was going to say catastrophic, hopefully not, but there's a risk. So one of the challenges will be to build some kind of safety perimeter protecting the houses that are still standing and where the people are going to go back. And then lastly, obviously, the fire danger is still there. Fires happened in those places for a reason. Those reasons haven't changed. So.
It's great to have you on the program. Thank you so much, Yves, for giving us your insight. Really appreciate you joining us.